Okay, can everybody see it?
Yep.
All right. Okay. First of all, I want to share something with you guys that came out of an ALC meeting a few minutes ago. And one of the things they're going to do is to start doing some training company-wide. And I like that. You know, a lot of this came from Mega Camp. I don't know if any of y'all were at Mega Camp. I know TG was. I'm not sure who else went in there. We'll talk about that this afternoon on our 1:30 coaching thing. But you know, I was sharing with them is that I would like to do this working with buyers, because what I want you guys to understand is I believe where the market is now, number one, I've always been an advocate of list to exist, that you've got to be the listing agent. You've got to do those things. I believe with the way our market is today, we're in a shortage of listings and we need the listings. We've got to have them. They're selling as quickly as they come on the market if they're priced right. So you don't want to ignore that. But working with a buyer gives you an incentive that you don't have with a seller or as the listing agent, and versus being the buyer's agent. Number one, as a listing agent, you list the house, you go in there, you talk to them, and you may keep up with them with the statistics and things that are happening like that. You don't have that connection continuously with them that you do with a buyer. When you work with the buyer, you show them all these properties. You get that, oh, wow, I love this. You get to see who they are. Number one, they're not paying the commission, so they're not thinking about, oh, I owe you money for what you're doing, and are you earning your money, and you're doing all these things. We get our money from the seller generally with that. And number two, you're with them as soon as you write the contract, then you let them know you've sent it to the title company, things are going to go over today, to the mortgage company, then you do the inspection, you wait on the appraisal, you're talking to them about how it's going to appraise, you've done all the comps, you're consistently getting back with them, working on the repairs that need to be done. So when they close that house, they're almost ecstatic. That's one of the happiest days in a couple or in a single or whoever they are. That's one of their rewarding, amazing, happy days. It's American dream to own a house. I don't care what kind of pandemic you're in, it's the American dream to own a house. So they're happy. And that's the day you want to get your referrals. That's the day you want to do some kind of a video that says, hey, Marcella was great. She did a great job. We are so excited. Can't wait to start our lives together in this brand new home, da-da-da, with all those kind of things. Because then you've got that documented. Get a video of them doing that and ask them right then for referrals. Ask them when you get that inspection back and there's not a whole lot, you get it negotiated. Ask them, hey, do you know of anybody that wants to buy? When you get that appraisal back, if it comes in low or it comes in high, whichever way, you get it negotiated. Ask them, do they know of anyone that's looking for a house? This is the most consistent person that you're going to be able to communicate with as you've connected that you're going to find in this business. And so I just want you to think about that. I've sort of had a mindset change because, you know, well, even in coaching, I'm saying this week we're focusing on, this month, we're focusing on listings. We're focusing on listings. You need listings. You do. Not taking anything away from that. But I want us to look at this buyer representation different because of what you can build with them, the friendships, the connections, the future businesses that are there. When I first got in, somebody would stay in a home an average of 5 years. It stayed that forever. Then it went to an average of 7 years. Now they're thinking that average has moved to 10 years. But in 10 years, are you still going to want business? Are you still going to want those referrals? And as they move forward, yes, you are. And so you want to keep up with them. Okay, these are some statistics, and every year I purchase these statistics along with the NAR profile of buyers and sellers. And I do believe that this is important for you to understand. And some of the things are important for you to talk to the buyers about as you work with them. 95% of the consumers start their search online. That doesn't surprise me at all. And probably that plus today with the pandemic. This was 2019, so you can imagine what's happening since we're in this pandemic, and probably people just sitting there on and looking at these things because they're at home a lot of times. 87% said pictures and details are the #1 driver. Other main considerations were market conditions along with neighborhood and school data. So in today's market, School data is still important. We think, well, they're not in school. Well, they are in school right now. And my grandchildren, from what I'm hearing, a lot of things that they're saying, you know, Moses was so excited. Moses is in the first grade. And he was so excited. He came home and he has his own computer because they're giving out those computers. One of the things I think they're doing with the children today, not that this is going to happen, but they're preparing. And this is the same thing that we need to do in our business. We need to prepare for what's going to happen. They're preparing these children to learn how to use computers in their everyday life. So if they have to go online with classes, then they're going to be ready to do that. Consumers are hiding behind the wall of the internet just because they're looking at things, just because, you know, we have several things that we're using for lead generation for our team, and we get a lead that's clicking. It tells me, we use Market Leader as one of the things, and it says so-and-so is browsing your website, you know, your internet. And, you know, we've got this one lady comes on every morning and looks. Doesn't mean, you know, she's been doing it for over a year, and you'll see when we talk about working with consumers and the timeline that they're on, sometimes it's 24 months before they actually buy. But if you can keep them on your website and you can follow up with them, you can give them relevant information, then they will become a buyer or a seller for you at some point. Today, it's like when you go shopping. If you go shopping and immediately you're hovered with all these salespeople, can I help you? Can I help you? You just want to leave. But if one will just come up and say, hey, I'm going to be over at the side, please know I want to help you. Is there anything in particular you're looking for? And I'll just stand over here. Now, when I look for furniture, that they do stay at the side, but I feel like I'm being stalked all over the store because they're, I don't know if y'all feel that way or not, but they're there. I can see them out of the corner of my eye the whole time I'm going. So we're hiding. It's the same thing when we go shopping like that. It's like they're hiding behind the wall of the internet because you really can't get to them unless they want you to. Over 70%, this is huge, guys, choose their agent based on the first person to provide relevant content. So if they're looking at 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, don't send them 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. If they're looking at homes with huge backyards, don't send them condos or townhouses. If they're looking for views with a lake, don't send them a house that's in a subdivision with no view at all. Send them relevant information. Listen to what they're telling you and send that to them. 97%, this is what 97% of the people that were surveyed through NAR said, having an honest agent with integrity was the most important thing to them. Really important, guys. So how do you come across as that honest agent with integrity? You listen to them, you send them things that they want, and you always tell the truth. One of the things I will caution you is when you're showing homes and stuff like that, when I've been out showing, my taste is very different than somebody else's. There's a difference in me loving something or not loving something, and something having value, future value, and being able to appreciate in the market and them getting a return on it. So just be careful that you don't, just be careful that you don't make the mistake of throwing your opinions out there that causes a problem with them. Then the typical search period stayed the same from 1 year to the other. It's been about 10 weeks for a buyer to find a home. I mean, it hasn't changed in 2019 since 2014. So you can stay with them. Okay, now we've gone through all those things and you found a buyer. This is what you're here for. What are you going to do with them? What to expect in the process. Number one, you're going to visit with your lender. This is what you're telling the buyer. So you might want to note some of these things. Visit with the lender, get buyer pre-approval or an approval. So once they're approved, they're approved. And very seldom do you get that right on the front because they have to collect paperwork. They have to collect taxes, all those kind of things. So you want to get a pre-approval, especially in today's market. It's very important that your buyers find a lender and get pre-approved and get a letter stating that they are pre-approved to buy a house. Once they find a home, if they are pre-approved to buy $300,000 and the home you find is $280,000, you don't want to send something that says, if you make an offer for $280,000 because it's $280,000, don't send something that says they're pre-approved for $300,000. You want to send they're pre-approved for $280,000 unless you know it's going to be multiple offers and you're willing to pay more than that. And then they're going to meet with a realtor. They're going to sign an exclusive buyer's agency. So you're telling them, once I meet with you, guys, don't make the mistake of trusting a buyer. Oh, they're my best friend, or oh, so they were referred to me by my best friend. They're always going to be there. This is a business, and treat it that way. You don't have to be pushy with this, but get that buyer's agency signed. And I think I've got a couple of people on here that we've talked recently that somebody can come in, like, just because I have their house listed and they're going to buy does not mean they have to buy from me. I do not have them under contract as a buyer's agent. So if you know they're going to buy, you want to get that buyer's agency signed with them, because a script for other agents to use is, I have my house listed with Marcella. Great. You're going to buy one though, whether going through a realtor's open house or something. And great, you're going to buy a house. Yes. Have you signed any paperwork with someone to represent you buying? No, I don't think so. I would love to do that. Let me tell you what I do. So you want to move forward with getting that signed as quickly as possible to protect your interests with these people that you trust. So sign that exclusive buyer's agency, review listings, set up notification systems for that buyer on properties that are available. So you can do that a lot of times on your CRM, your website that's in there. You can do that through the MLS. If you've not been to MLS training, that's one of the things that they'll show you, is how to set up a notification for your buyers. And then once they find something, you're going to schedule the showings as requested, view the homes, and review the market price. Now that they've found that perfect home, what you're going to do is you're going to treat that buyer just like you would a seller if you were going in to list that home, because you have that fiduciary responsibility to that buyer to make sure that what they're paying for this home is either in market value, and if it's over market value, they need to know they're paying more than market value. This market has been conducive. I know of at least 2 on our team, that buyers that have paid $5,000 more than market value to get the home they wanted. And they put that in their offer. They're willing to pay more than $5,000 more than the appraised value of that property. So you want to pull the tax records, check when you're doing that, you're going to check the square footage. You're going to check and see the sales, the valuation in there. When was it sold? What did it sell for? Does that matter? No, but it makes you knowledgeable about the property. As you go through and you list property, one of the things you'll know is it really doesn't matter what it sold for. What matters is market value today. And one of the things that we're faced with today with appraisals is it's anybody's guess what they're going to come back with. I mean, we can go out there, we use the same system they do, and it can look like there's nothing there, and they come back with something which they're allowed to do as long as the underwriter that's working with the mortgage company, the buyer that you're choosing, as long as they say it's okay, and it gets through them. Ask the lender for buyer's estimated closing cost. Really important to you. Buyers like to look at homes after 5 o'clock or later in the afternoon or weekends. And today, if they're working from home, a lot of times their time is a little bit more free, and you don't have to go out on weekends and after hours a whole lot of the time. Let me turn this off. I'm sorry, guys. I meant to do that earlier. So ask them for estimated closing costs, because when you're showing them this, if they find a house in the evening or they find a house on weekends, a lot of times those lenders are not going to answer their phone. They're not going to tell you if the buyer needs closing costs paid by the seller. You want to know what that is. What is their closing cost going to be? If I'm writing up a contract and the contract says I want the seller to pay the buyer's closing cost and prepaid items, all buyers' closing cost and prepaid items, not to exceed $3,500. And if I don't know what it is and I'm guessing, and the cost is going to be $3,500, and I guess at $4,000 because I'm taking a percentage of whatever the sales price was, and there's multiple offers, and there's one that's got $3,500 and one that's got $4,000, they're going to take the one that has $3,500. So it's really important that you get to know the lender that the buyer is working with. And one of the things that you want to know is if that buyer is going to need their closing costs paid by the seller, find out what it is. That lender can tell you that amount. And then closings are taking anywhere from 30 to 45 days. I'm seeing today that they're closing easily in 30 days. And then if there is a deposit or earnest money, you're going to take that then. Always make a copy of it, put it in your file, and deliver that to whoever is supposed to be getting that.
Hey, Marcella.
Marcella,
Yes.
David's got a question.
Okay. Go ahead, David.
Jeremy, I'm sorry.
Oh, Jeremy, go ahead.
I just have a question. So, like, is it on closing costs? Is it typically about 3%?
Typically, but I quit saying that because there's so many different kinds of loans today that I would not guess at that, Jeremy.
But the reason I
For
say, like, if we're on the weekend or something and we're trying to write a contract and get a rough estimate,
You can do that, but you're going to be in the situation that I just talked
and
about.
yeah,
So if as long as you know up front, that should not happen to you. Get that from the lender. And this is one of the reasons that I tell you to have affiliates that you work with all the time. Our lender will answer the phone. We have a couple of them, and they'll answer the phone on the weekends after 5, so we can get information from them, and just in a few minutes they can tell us. Now, what happens if we use our lender and they decide to use another lender? Does anybody know? I call my lender and the lender says it's 3,500, but they've got another lender. We write the contract up and we put in that little paragraph, seller to pay buyers closing costs and prepaid items not to exceed 3,500, which my lender has given me. So now they go back to their lender and their lender says it's $4,000. What do you think happens?
That person has to pay the other $500.
They do, or they have a choice now. They can use their lender and their lender can eat $500, or they can use my lender who answered the phone on the weekend and they already know I have a relationship with them, or they wouldn't have done that, and they can go with them and they've got the 3,500. So this is one way a lot of times that you can get buyers to work with your lenders. You can ask them to use your lender, to talk to your lender. Even if you have what the lender is, you can tell them to get estimates. It's always a great thing to get an estimate about what your closing costs are going to be. And the reason I said that about you don't know, like, we're using Keller Mortgage right now on this house that we're buying right now. If I were going through another lender, this would cost me $7,000-8,000. It's going to cost me $1,000. So it depends on what the lender will pay. What will they waive? You know, what are these costs? A lot of lenders today are waiving the origination fee because they're getting paid by some other method from the company. Keller Mortgage gets paid. The people that they sell the loans to pays them, and that's how the loan officer gets paid. So there are so many things happening in this industry that makes it different. That you're right, you could do that. You could estimate 3% and you're going to be pretty close. And if I were going to do that at some point, I would talk to a lender ever so often and make sure that FHA is this amount, conventional is this amount. What do I need to be estimating so you're going to be close with that, because all those loans are different. Okay, any
Now,
more
Well, and
questions?
Marcella,
it also depends on your purchase price.
Yes.
3% won't cover something at $100,000. It's more like 6%. And that typically goes up to pushing 150, just FYI.
The
on
lower amounts cost more to close them. Jason is right, than your higher amounts. Yes. I would just say right now where you are, don't do that. It will bite you. I would get with a lender and find out what the costs are going to be. There's too much difference in that. Any more
so
questions?
yeah, the so you're talking with Keller Mortgage. I'm hearing a lot about they pay closing costs. So you're talking about with Keller Mortgage, if I did an RD loan, essentially that person could walk into a house with zero down everything, right?
Well, they can walk into zero down with an RD loan with any lender. So we
I,
don't use, let me just tell you this, Keller Mortgage has a great product. And you're gonna develop a relationship with a lot of different lenders out there. One of the reasons that we have other lenders, and y'all hear us, I've brought Ron Martindale on PC coaching, and he's given away, like he gave away a couple of mega camp tickets and those kind of things. He does that to earn your business. Keller Mortgage does not do that because they waive the cost, those kind of things. They don't work with us as realtors in our marketing situation. And so, you know, we give a lot of business to Ron. If sometimes the buyers don't need closing costs paid, those kind of things, and they're okay with it. but they are very competitive and they're doing a lot of business. And one of the reasons that they're there today is because Gary Keller, he does not own it, but he started it and he's an investor in it. And he is building a moat around the agents at Keller Williams by adding insurance, by adding mortgage, by adding the affiliates that we need to do business with, so that if the market goes crazy, then we've got those options that are in there. So, okay, any more questions? Got it? Okay, I'm going to minimize you guys again. Thank you. If y'all, somebody raises their hand, because I have y'all minimized and I cannot see it as I'm talking. So just say out loud, hey, I got my hand up, and we'll stop. Okay. All right. So schedule the home inspection with the buyer and the seller's agent and the home inspector. You have 10 business days, not 10 days, but 10 business days. What happens if it's the 11th day and you go, oh my gosh, I forgot that I had that? What happens? What do you need to do?
Can you file for like an extension or request an extension?
And how would you do that, Rachel? That's good.
There's probably a form that you need to submit to the listing agent.
Okay.
Addendum?
Yeah.
Right.
I
So
wouldn't have to do
you,
that, so.
yeah, yes. Honestly, this shouldn't happen because this is your job. If it does happen, then you need to get with the listing agent and ask them for an extension, and you need to put it in writing. Don't assume it's okay, because do you know what the consequences if you don't do this in 10 days with your buyers? Do you know what happens?
They can't
Contract
ask,
null and void.
Yes, Mackenzie?
they can't ask for any repairs.
Well, they can ask for them, but they're probably not going to get them. And what they don't get is the right to reinspect.
That's right.
You know, I can tell you this, I don't know that this has ever happened. I had an agent years ago that was on my team that came in, and y'all been with me to know that how I train. It's pretty specific with these kind of things. And she came in and she said, I was confused. I thought that was the seller's disclosure that they had 10 days on. And I went, you have 3 on the seller's disclosure. I mean, there's no excuse for this, guys. Don't be that person. And if you mess up, confess it. Take responsibility and just fix it. Because the seller, the listing agent on the other side, and the seller want this to close. They want it to close. And so they're going to work with you 9 times out of 10, because what good would it be for them to say, you aren't going to be able to inspect this, and you can't, I'm not going to fix anything because you didn't do your inspection. Well, sayonara, I'm not going to buy this house then. You see where we're going with this? I mean, it goes 2 ways, but you do have to do it. This is your responsibility to get it done. If it's the 11th day, talk to the other agent and ask if you can get an extension for 2 days or whatever. If you know you need an extension, let's say you can't get the inspector in because they're all busy, or if you know there's a problem you want to check out before you have it inspected, or whatever, the buyers are out of town and the inspector, whatever's happening, then ask for the extension before it happens. And you send a general addendum over asking for the extension, whatever the situation was. Any questions on that? Okay. Once you've done the inspection, you want to review the home inspection with the realtor. And so this is the buyer. This is where you're telling them what to expect. And so you want to sit down with them. And what I do with a home inspection, I don't ever go to the whole home inspection. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean you can't do that if you want to. They're usually 2 to 3 hours, depending on the size of the home. I usually ask the inspector what time he thinks he's going to be through. If he tells me 1 o'clock, I'll say, can I be here at 12:30? And I can meet the buyers there 15, 20 minutes before, 30 minutes before he's finished. You don't want to be there a whole lot, because all they're going to do is talk to him, and he's going to be there that much longer. When he gets through, he's going to show them the problem areas. One of the things that you want to be sure that you do with your buyer, and if you're a listing agent on the opposite side, do the very same thing, but with the buyer that we're talking about today, is explain to them they are paying this inspector to find everything that could possibly be wrong with this house. If the roof has got a nail head that's up a little bit, but it's not going to do any damage and it's normal, they should be finding that. So the smallest little things that are that could need to be fixed, that could be a concern, but may not be, just your opinion. You want them to find everything. So you want to talk to them about this before you sit down with them and go over this inspection. In the very beginning, tell them this is what we're paying them for. Just because he comes back with 10 pages of repairs and they're little bitty things like caulk this window, or, you know, one of the things came back is this shower head doesn't have a whole lot of pressure. Well, you might want the shower head fixed with a lot of pressure, but there may be enough things that you could caulk the window. It doesn't take anything to do that, same as it wouldn't take anything for the seller to do it. However, look through that, what's important to you, and get those things done. A lot of times, you know, this house that we're buying, they wouldn't do anything. I mean, if we wanted it, we were just going to take it. They weren't going to do anything. They felt like everything was in, you know, top condition. They had worked on it the whole time. And if we wanted the house, then and they didn't bend on that. You know, we sent an inspection report pair over, asked them to do some things, and they said, no, we're not going to do those things. So we had a choice then. We could walk from that house, or we could say, you know, these things are probably going to cost us, you know, $500 to do. Is that worth walking away from this home, or is it not worth it? So those are the kind of things, the conversations that you want to have before you have to have them. So they're going to be expecting some things to come back, and they're not going to ask for everything to be done. The other thing is, do not just send over that inspection to the other agent and say, fix everything. That irritates me beyond all irritation. You know, be the agent that does the right thing. Write down on that inspection repair, if it's too many things, use an addendum that you connected that with the serial number and everything, and put those inspection items on there. You can attach parts of the report so they can see pictures of it, which I think is very helpful. A lot of times they go, the shingle on the roof is da 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 da. Oh, by the way, they did fix one thing for us. They had $100 roof thing that they had somebody come out and look at it, and they paid for that. So, I mean, it was still $100. But you can attach pictures to it, and they can see exactly where the roof damage is, or they can see exactly where the damage is to the wood that needs to be replaced, those kind of things. And then schedule well septic inspection, if that's applicable. Those will probably happen if you're out in the country, rural, Bella Vista. A lot of times you have those kind of situations. Schedule termite inspection if applicable. These are not with your inspection, and our title company will do that for us. A lot of title companies do not do that. So the title companies, if we tell them who, they'll make the phone call and see if they're going to go out there. The other thing is, if you have a seller on this, they can get free estimates if they don't have termite, and they can get termite companies to come in and give them free estimates on what it would cost to put termite on there. Almost every contract that I see in today's market asks for a termite clearance letter. What the termite clearance letter that you're getting for your buyer says that a termite company has inspected this and it's clear, and they get the clearance letter for a year. And then it's their job to keep it up after that. So you want to schedule that, or make sure that it's being scheduled. If there's a homeowners association involved, verify the amounts that they're going to have to pay. Order the survey, or verify that it has been done as outlined in the contract. Who's going to pay for it? The seller's going to pay for it. They may have somebody that they want to use. If the buyer's going to pay for it, they may. You can get, again, we can get with our title company and let them know. A lot of times I make those phone calls because I know a surveyor that's on our affiliate list that we talk to, and I can verify some things. So if you've got people that you know, you can make those phone calls and let the title company know, or tell them who it is, and they can go on and make sure that the survey is ordered and when they expect it back. Verify utility companies. If I were you, I would keep a list of utility companies in the different cities and put it into your cloud somewhere where you can just send those out to buyers, so they have the phone numbers. That's a service that you can give them. They have the phone numbers of the people to call to transfer over the utilities before closing or at closing. And then you need to verify that the sellers haven't turned off the utilities for final inspection. You want the utilities on when you do that final walkthrough. Final walkthrough, and I'll probably say this again later on, but never do the final walkthrough a week or so before you have the closing, because as people are packing up and moving, anything can happen. So you want to do that final walkthrough the morning of the closing, the night before the closing. You want to make sure if there's still a lot of furniture in there, you might not want to close. If they haven't done the repairs that they were supposed to do, you might not want to close. So you may want to go ask them and make sure those things have been done a week or so before. You don't want to wait until the day of closing to get this kind of stuff done, but don't do your final inspection. The final inspection is on the inspection repair addendum on page 4. You sign off saying, I accept the house as it is. So if they're still in there and you know that, these are the things you need to tell your buyer. They may not do anything to it, but the moving company may go in there and knock a hole in the wall when they're moving the refrigerator out, those kind of things. And you've accepted the property as is. You're not going to have a lot to pull on with that. When you close and you take those keys, you sign that final paper, it belongs to you, and you need to let the buyers know that. So confirm cash that's needed for closing. You will get this amount from your title company. And so you'll call them right before closing and say, how much cash does my buyer need to bring to closing? And then inform the buyers that they need to bring that amount in the form of a cashier's check. They cannot take a personal check to the closing company, won't work. So they need to go get a cashier's check made out to the title company for closing for the amount that they need to take in. Then it's time to go to closing. So when you're doing this search, begin the property search, showings, preview properties online, send it to them, discussions. You should know the market and be ready to make professional suggestions. Again, don't give your opinion, just the facts. You want to look at current, you want to look at sold, you want to look at expired, you want to look at pending in the areas that they're looking for these homes, and always listen to their motivation and be ready to help them make a good buying decision when they ask for it. If they don't ask for it, you don't have to do it. Evaluating the desired property. Always run a CMA, as we talked about a little bit earlier, around that desired property. Once the facts and the figures are reviewed and the buyer would like to proceed, a contract will be prepared and submitted to the listing agent. eSign is the first program you're going to want to be familiar with. I mean, you use it so much in this. So Form Simplicity, get in there and learn how to use that. Somebody says, let's write this contract, and you don't know what to do with it. You can fill it out with ink, but you're not going to want to do that. I mean, it's just, if you have a counter, you have to do it over. Everything's already in there. You put the people in. You may have some other things that need to be signed. If you fill it out with ink, you have to meet in person. And today, that's not as conducive as it has been in the past. So get familiar with Form Simplicity. Now, negotiating. After the purchase agreement has been prepared, collect earnest money if applicable, notify the listing agent, and send the offer. The negotiating is not over until you close that loan. The ones of you that have experience in real estate will agree with me that most of your negotiation is not done just getting that contract accepted. It's ongoing the whole time it's under contract, things that come up that you're going to represent that buyer in those discussions with the seller and the listing agent. So know your contracts and the law. In this negotiation, 9 times out of 10, the stronger agent wins. You know, the agent says, oh, you can't do that. Yes, I can. I understand that this, and this is true. So know your contracts, know the law, and stand behind it. Create your buyer's packet. Okay, set your appointment for the buyers to meet with them, or I would meet with them at the office if you can. If you can't, then meet on Zoom, which is perfectly okay. If they're wanting to meet with you on Zoom, you can actually go in and search properties, those kind of things, while you've got them on there. So it's a pretty good meeting place. I like to meet them and connect with them if I'm showing them property, because you're going to be with them. However, even back when I was showing buyers, and even today, a lot of times, 2 different ways to look at this. They can ride in the car with you and you get to connect and you get to know them and communicate with them, or they can follow you. Probably in today's market, they're going to follow you or they're going to meet you there. So if you've already done your fact finding, you will have properties to show. If not, this will serve as a fact finding time when you meet with them and you go over all the contracts and get the appointment. It's also a great time when you're meeting with them to pull that out and look at some properties and find out what they're going to say. Understand the MLS and how to search for buyer listing. So again, get in there, play with it, know what you're doing with that. By the way, I was going to tell you guys, I've been watching Lake Property in Bella Vista. Yesterday, there was 1 listing left. A week ago, there were like 8. There's 1 Lake listing. If I were out there actually seeking business right now, I'd be getting somebody to pull cold numbers for me, and I'd be out shopping around the lake area. Would you like to sell? There's 1 Lake listing. I mean, it's almost guaranteed if you get something and you price it right, and pricing it right could be getting them a great appreciation. The average homeowner today has about $170,000 equity in their home. Doesn't mean all of them do, but there are more people today that have equity than ever before. Even if I were a buyer's agent, I would go out and knock on doors and say, hey, I have buyers for Lake property in Bella Vista. I have buyers for Shadow Valley. I have buyers for Pinnacle. I have buyers for whatever you've got them for. I'd go knock on those doors. And what you could do with that is you could take the stats that we give you in box, pull the stats for that area and say, here's your market stats. They want that. Knock, knock, knock. This is Marcella. I'm with Keller Williams Market Pro Realty and the Hagen Group. And here's your market stats for Shadow Valley. Hope you have a great day. Hey, by the way, would you or do you know somebody that would be interested in selling their property? If you look at that market stats, you're going to see there's only 10 properties in here that are for sale, and there's nothing under 400,000, and your home is going to fit in that category. I believe that I can get you above market value for your house. And get that conversation going. This comes from knowing and understanding the market.
One of the things that I found interesting this weekend, I went to Babette Russell, and I was supposed to go to Jenny Sawyer's open houses this weekend. But as I was going from one to the other, I noticed like on one of those back roads from one side of Bella Vista over to Garfield, I noticed on one of those back roads, there was a for sale by owner sign. So I made a note of that, of like where I was. And I went home and I searched for that property to be listed somewhere, like for sale by owner or anywhere. And I could not find that listed anywhere on the internet whatsoever. I mean, so I was just amazed at how crazy it was to go buy a house that far out and not find it listed on some MLS or Craigslist or whatever. So
Okay, so TG, you stepped in this yourself. Why didn't you stop your car and go knock on the door?
because I was trying to get really fast over to Jenny Sawyer's thing, and I didn't stop. Yes, it
Have
was
you been back?
Have I been back? No, I have not.
Can you go back today?
I'm going to after I get out of my thing this afternoon.
Okay, guys, our inner self talks to us and gives us all kinds of excuses. Think how exciting that would have been for you to go up to the door and talk to them. Probably wouldn't have taken 10 minutes. If it would have taken the time that you were at Jenny's house, if you called her and went, hey, you're not going to believe this. I found that would have been exciting for her. It would have been exciting for you. And what a great story. Now, I'm waiting next week. You're going to tell us what happened on that. Thank you
Sounds
for
good.
sharing that. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on here. Check my time. Okay, you're going to ask general questions about their finances. And a lot of people, agents especially, get antsy when they start thinking, I've got to ask about their finances. Guys, let me tell you this. Everyone that comes in that wants to buy a house with you, they're concerned about, do you think I'm going to qualify? Is my credit going to be a problem? You know, those kind of things. Have they ran their credit by a lender? Has a lender already ran that? So you can ask that question. If yes, who did it? And do they know what kind of loan they want at this point? How much down payment are they willing to spend? These are questions that you can ask them. Are they a veteran? Are they a first-time home buyer? Do they have down payment and enough money for closing costs? How do they feel about their credit? Do they have a whole lot of debt? How soon do they need to move into their new home? Great questions. I would say take a picture of this slide so you can put this into your scripts that you're talking to them with. So
Marcella,
yes.
I be sure, like one of the things I would add to that, because I just ran into this problem. I had a buyer that is, you know, he had his pre-qual letter and I think he had a pre-approval letter, but he was like, yeah, I'm pre-approved, blah, blah, blah. But come to find out, it was like a year old.
Yes.
And so being sure to make sure it's been a recent approval.
It's like 90 days is about.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the extent of those. Yes. And they don't assume that your buyers, just because they act knowledgeable, they don't know as much as they think they do. So even if they go, yeah, I know that, still go over some of these things with them. Thank you, Brittany. Okay. Things to consider. You know, what town do they want? What size home do they want? Do they want a special subdivision? What price range? What size garage? What schools are they looking for? Do they want new construction? They want an older house? Do they want resale? You know, what are they looking for? Those are questions. After you have selected some properties, separate the properties. Now, this is what I do. You can do this however you want to, whatever organizes you with it. Some people map it out on Google and they do it that way. I just like to separate it because I know the area pretty well and I know what I want to do. So I separate the properties in the order that I've decided to show them. So I know the area that I want to go. And then 1+, write the time that you plan for each party. So I print all those out to look at them in front of me. And if I've got 10 there, then the place that I want to show, I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I set the property for a 2-hour span. So I set the first one, if I'm going to start at 1, from 1 to 3. I set the second one about 30 to 45 minutes after. So if I set them from 1 to 3, then I would do 1:30 or 1:45 to 3:45. Y'all see what I'm doing? So you can schedule them. It's not going to take you but about 30 to 45 minutes in a house. And sometimes they're going to go, I don't want to go in this house when you pull up. So you're going to gain some time there. If you are early at a property that you schedule because of that, be sure and call the agent and let them know you're early. Can you go in or do you need to come back to this one? Separate the properties into the listing companies. And that's when you're going to call for an appointment. Now, pretty much you can just go down the list because the 1-800 number, when we call showing time, can pretty much go. They can jump from one to the other one. It helps sometimes to go, I've got 3 Lindsay, 2 Keller Williams, those kind of things to tell them and then put them back in the order that you're going to show them. Be sure to mark on each sheet if there's any special showing instructions, or if you're doing this on your phone and you want to take notes or something on something you're doing, then do that, scan it back in so you can have it there. But are there pets? Is there a garage code? I personally like to print these off and just make notes for myself. And then you're ready. Then at the bottom, I've got name the house game. And this is something that I've done for a long time. It's fun, but it fits my personality. So if I'm showing houses to somebody and I've got 10 houses, those people are not going to remember that house by the address. They're just not going to do it. So we make a game out of it. And I tell them that every house that we go to, they're going to name the house. And they can only keep 3 houses on their list. So for instance, and I had a couple walk in and I only had this one time. I can only remember one time that this happened, but I guarantee you it will happen to you at some point. It may happen more than once. But I said, we're going to play this game and this is what we're going to do. And I explained it to him and the wife looked at me and she said, my husband will never do that. He won't play that game. And so we go look, I said, okay, that's okay. Then you play it with me. So we get to the first house and he goes, wow, this is out of the box. Guess what they named that house? Wow, this is out of the box. He named the house because of what he said. Not only does it help them, but also on the MLS sheet that you've got with you, the agent one, you can write, wow, this is out of the box. So you can go back and if they get the 4th one and they still like it, make them remove one because they like one better than the other one. So when you get through, you don't have 10 properties to go through. You have 3 that are their top 3 that you're going to go through. You can play it or not play it, but it's been a little fun thing with me in my career. Decide if you're going to use Form Simplicity or handwrite the contract. I hope you're going to use Form Simplicity. Be sure you're familiar with it and understand it because I can remember I first got on Form Simplicity and I was trying to write the contract and I've had someone write my contracts for me. It was a weekend. I couldn't get in touch with them. I didn't want to bother them, whatever it was, but I can still see where I was standing in my kitchen and I was doing that. Honestly, guys, I wanted to take my laptop if it didn't cost so much and throw it in the floor just because of little things that weren't working right on that. Go in there and practice, write some contracts, set it up, pull it in, get it e-signed. Once you do it, it's not hard. Set up people in your address system and then go write a contract for them and pull it. You can delete it, throw it away, whatever you want to. Go practice doing that. The purchase price that you should know the values of property that they're considering and be ready to give them the facts. And ask them, both of you, take the emotions out of the sale, just the facts. Now, why would you say a real estate agent would have emotions in the sale? Well, most of you don't have any sales under your belt. So do you think to be able to get that first contract written would be a little emotional to you? I can promise you it's going to be a lot emotional to you. Just understand that there are going to be lots of contracts. No one contract is going to make or break this career. So take the emotions and then tell them to take the emotions out of it. And this works a lot if you're representing sellers. They just get insulted sometimes with the offers. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be their house anymore. Their object is to take them back to their motivation. Their object is to move in 3 weeks, to be with their husband, to be with their wife who has been transferred, to get the children and the family back together. Their object is to move out in the country with 2 acres where they can have 4-wheelers and they've got a swimming pool and they can have their own family parties and they can do all these things. What is their motivation? Take them back to that. Take them away from the fact that they were insulted. So take the emotions out of it. If they're asking the seller to pay closing costs for them, you'll need to know how much from the lender. We've talked about that. Ask the seller to pay the closing costs and prepaid items for the buyers not to exceed the amount that the lender gave you. Really important. Now, I'm going to tell you something in here is when you say ask the seller to pay closing costs, do not put closing fee. This has been a mistake that a lot of agents have made. A closing fee is something in our business and our careers that the title company charges to close the loan. So be sure that you write closing costs. Those are all the costs that are involved for the buyer that they can pay. And prepaid items. Prepaid items are your escrows, like your taxes and insurance and anything else that's involved in that. Those prepaid items, and they'll have to prorate those and those different things. So your closing cost, your loan origination, the things that the lender is going to charge you to close that loan. The down payment, the things that you're bringing to the table, they can't pay the down payment, but that's going to be cost that's in there. And then, is it a new construction or a resale? How much down? 20% minimum, new loan maximum? What are the closing dates? These are things that you need to be able to know. When do they want to close, and see if you can get it negotiated. Now, I would tell you on what closing date, when they give you a date, look at your calendar, make sure that it is not a Friday. Try to close on a Wednesday or Thursday, and then try to keep it not at the end of the month. One thing with us at Keller Williams is they have a thing called transmittal at the end of the month, and they shut down writing checks for a couple of days as they transmit to our Keller Williams International office. And so I just stay away from the end of the month if you can. It'd be better to go over to the 1st or 2nd of the next month, or if you can cut it back a couple of days, do that. But Fridays are horrible because if something goes wrong, you don't have a day even to fix it. And you've got, where are they going to live now? They thought they were closing. We've got a problem. And they've already got the trucks packed up. And now somebody wants to do early occupancy and or delayed occupancy because we're not closing. And so Fridays are not really good days. And you do control that more than you think. So do they want a home warranty when you're writing the contract? A lot of sellers are putting home warranties in their listings today because they get coverage. If they're using AHS for one thing, they get coverage while their home is listed. Most buyers, if it's an existing home, wants a home warranty. It's only $500-600 cost to the buyer that's out there. Are they paying a non-refundable deposit? If they're going to pay, why would they do that? Okay, they're going to offer cash, and it's multiple offers, and cash usually speaks up even if you have a little bit more on one that needs to be financed. And if you're going to pay cash for it, and you know with a shadow of a doubt that you're going to buy this house and it's $400,000, give them a $10,000-15,000 non-refundable. That all of a sudden puts you up front. But what you need to understand is when you give them that check, they need to be sure this is what they want, because non-refundable means non-refundable. Do they want termite coverage? Do they want a survey? Surveys are something that I would suggest you always talk to them about. Again, you take the emotions out of this, it doesn't matter to you. A survey is good for 30 days past when they did it. They can say you can look at an existing survey. It doesn't mean anything. So I've got horror stories with people that said I don't need a survey when they buy a house. And that meaning one of them was a new construction, and the builders just said, we're not doing a survey. We've got the corners marked, all this stuff. Well, they get into this home and they're in there, and we talk to them about getting a survey. You can't, once you own it, like anything else, once you have closed and taken those keys and signed off on everything, you own that house, no matter what the landmarks are. So they're in their house well, these people were at work and they called us and they go, you know what, we've got a problem. We need your help. And we're out of it at that point, guys. There is nothing you can do but be nice and maybe advise them that they need to go to an attorney. And if you have not explained the importance of a survey, this could be a bad situation for you. So you don't care whether they get one or not, but explain what happens if you don't get one. If they choose to not have one, that's still up to them. Just the facts. But on this new construction, what happened was they didn't want one, and they called in the middle of the day, and there was a vacant lot next to them. Well, the builder decided to build on the vacant lot. He had the surveyor come out and mark the corners of where he was going to build on this new lot. Well, those corners went like several feet into the third car garage driveway, and this guy was panicked. No one wanted to do anything, and at the end, he ended up having to get an attorney and go in, and the builder ended up having to buy the house back. Who wants to do that kind of stuff? You know, I had another one, and this is a simple one, and you would think, why would you want a survey? I had friends that went to church with me that were going to buy a lot from a developer that I had the subdivision exclusively listed. And it was just a lot. There was no house there. They were just going to buy a lot and build a house at some later point, not even right then. And I said, you need to get a survey. Anything can happen. You want to make sure that nothing has changed. There's a house on this side and there's a house on this other side. So, I mean, they could have encroached. You know what an encroachment means from class. They could have encroached on your property with anything. And so they decided to get a survey. They decided to get one. Didn't cost very much. It's a vacant lot. Well, they were supposed to close on a Friday, and the survey was not going to be ready until Monday. No house, nothing, no reason. And they said, no, we just want to go in and close. I said, guys, you already paid for the survey. Wait until Monday. What difference is it going to make with you? They didn't do it. So on Monday, they get the survey. And guess what? The seller has a wrought iron fence all along the property and has landscaped 10 feet over onto their lot, the whole length of it. And we had to get the developer involved. So you don't have a story right now, but you've got my story. So explain those stories. Doesn't matter if they want it or not. Explain what can happen and say, this is up to you. But if you're buying a $300,000 or $400,000, even $100,000 property, and a survey cost you $400 to $500, you know, why? That's a small amount of money to find out exactly where your lot lines are. We had another one that was in a new construction, and the builder got really upset that we wanted it. Come to find out when we were through with it, he had his fence 2 foot over on the other lot, and he had to move it. And so again, it doesn't matter to you. What matters to you is that you have a fiduciary responsibility to explain the importance of when they say, do you want a survey on that contract? So you want to get that exclusive buyer's agency signed. This is working with them with buyers from start to close. Review. Get the buyer agency signed, get the pre-approval, review the listings, and set up notification system for the buyers on the properties that are available. Schedule showings as requested. Again, relevant information. View the homes, review the market prices, find their dream home. Again, you're going to go back, pull tax records on the house that they found, and do a market analysis for that. Ask the lender for buyer's estimated closing costs. Make sure everything is correct in there. Determine the offer and the closing date. Now you've got an accepted offer. Great. You're going to receive the deposit or earnest money. Everything's accepted. They bring the check back to you. Again, they don't have to put either one of those up if they want to. Earnest money is pretty much worthless, in my opinion. Not a lot of other people think that. There are some people that still get earnest money and they believe it makes a difference. Earnest money means that the buyer can get out and get their money back for pretty much anything. So
Can I say something?
surely.
Of course. I was going to mention something that I thought was really interesting whenever like my cousin that she's looking for a home right now, and I gave her my app. And one of the things that is so neat about that app is that every time she looks at a house, it goes into command. And I'm just dumbfounded if there's anybody that is not using that, because that app is such an invaluable asset to everything we do. So I just
You just
gonna
have to
suggest that.
encourage the people to do that. Thank you for sharing that, because one of the things that you're going to hear out there in the market, so be familiar with what happens when you use that app on the customer side of that, because they're going to go, it's so easy to use Zillow and some of these things that they're familiar with. Show them the advantages of what happens with that app. Okay, so deliver, this is really important. Deliver a copy of a fully executed contract to the lender, the title company, and the client. If you're using Form Simplicity, they'll have a copy of that. And so get it back to them. I had an agent, gosh, it's probably a year or so ago, that we got down through this, and they didn't understand that they were supposed to send it to the lender. Well, how's it going to get done? So it's the lender and the title company. Everybody needs copies of all this so it moves forward and you can get it closed. It can get closed if you don't do that right away, but you are going to be sweating it with the title company. That's the main person. And the lender needs to know, because they're going to start the process of getting things done and getting them pre-qualified, ordering the appraisal, those kind of things. And then you're going to schedule the home inspection with the buyer, seller's agent, and the home inspector. Review the home inspection. Remember, you have 10 days. Request an extension if necessary. If you don't do that, then you take a chance of not being able to go back and re-inspect the home or even do an inspection. Schedule the well septic inspection if applicable. Schedule termite. Most that says is if applicable, but most times it is. Verify the closing time and place. Notify all parties. Schedule the final walkthrough. Remember, do the final walkthrough. Final is what it says right before closing. Go over the HUD or the CD with your client before closing. Inform the buyers they need a cashier's check. A personal check will not work. Make sure your file is complete. Contract to close in the packet. Checked off the things that you're supposed to be doing, and then attend closing and collect your commission check. Finally, always make your buyers feel important. That means you need to communicate often. I don't believe you can over communicate with a buyer that's buying a house. Just let them know what's happening, because they don't understand this process. You are the professional. That's why you're making the commission. And again, we've talked about this. Ask for a referral. Ask for it several times. Ask for it after the inspection when you've negotiated and got everything done for them that they wanted done. The appraisal's done. You've got that negotiated and it's all set there. The different stages that you're in with them that you're communicating, because one may come up that they didn't have the first time. These people like you, they trust you, and they want to help you. Okay, it is 11:01. So we're going to go in. This is the buyer's consultation, or this is the presentation like we had, and it's going to be very similar to things that we talked about a few minutes ago. So I'm going to open this up for a second. Are there any questions of things that we've talked about so far? Has this been helpful, or are you getting it down? Okay. Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm scanning through here. Hi, Skylar. I didn't see you a while ago. All right. I think that we have gotten, there's Scott. You made it with your internet. How are you? All right. So let's go through this buyer consultation. And this is just like your presentation and an example of what you can use. You can change it, make it your own, whatever you want to. You can even take some of those slides that we had up there a few minutes ago and put those questions in there to go with it. Okay, this is important information about your move. So you can see I've got this in the same presentation, PowerPoint, and this is in box so that you can pick that up and you can make it your own. So the first question is, do you own or rent currently? And what I did underneath that is to remind you, if you don't have a mortgage calculator, get one now. I closed more deals when I was actively listing and selling because I could figure frontwards, backwards, tell them all these different things. If they're renting and they're paying $1,200 a month at 3.5% on 30 years, it equals $267,000 house that they could buy. So, I mean, goodness gracious. And if they do it, if they buy $200,000, it's $900. How many friends do you have that are renting right now? The interest rate is low. It's lower than 3.5% when I did this. Ours that we just got was 2.8, and you could have got 2.5. They penalize you just a little. And I don't even know if this is ethical when you've got everything correct, but for being self-employed as a real estate agent, my income could stop if I stopped working, but I think if I quit a job, it could stop too. But they penalize just a little bit because we were self-employed. You're going to find self-employed people are a little bit harder to get approved, but they can get approved. They need good credit. They've got longevity. If you're commission-based, you need to have that commission at least a 2-year track record of what you're doing, and they're going to ask you for that track record, 2 years taxes, and then to close, they're going to ask you how much money you've made this year. So you're going to give them some kind of a grid with that, and then what have you got pending to close, in our case, if you're thinking about buying a home. If they own a house, is your current home on the market? You may think that's a crazy thing to ask, but again, some people may want to have a different agent that lists their house than they do that buys their home. So you want to know if it's on the market. If they rent, when does your lease expire? These are things you're going to ask. How long have you been looking? Have you found anything you liked? We want to know, are they looky-loos? Have they been looking for 10 years? In this market, they could have been looking just because there's not enough inventory out there, and they want your help. Like TJ said, these people out there, they probably don't even know what's going on in the market and what's happening in that rural area. And before you go out there and talk to them, you need to take something for Benton County, or yeah, that was out toward Benton County, and look at what's happening in the county in that rural area and how many months of listings do they have, because that's a valuable asset to have in your inventory right now, is a house with land that's out in the country that's not in a subdivision like that. What stopped you from buying the house if you found something that you liked? Ideally, when would you like to move into your new home? These are all questions that are going to give you the answers to finding out what their motivation is. What price range are you looking for? How did you arrive at that dollar amount? So you might say, why in the world would you ask them how they arrived at that dollar amount? Well, they may say, my neighbor down the street bought a $250,000 home, and it was this payment, and that's the payment I'm looking for. Again, go back. Have you been to a lender? Because their neighbor down the street, they make twice the money that they do, and they may not be able to afford the same price that these people do. So you want to know, how did they arrive at that dollar amount? Very important to be able to talk to them ideally about what they can and what they can't afford. Will you be paying cash? I usually throw that in there, and because they laugh and, are you kidding? I don't have enough cash to pay $300,000 for that house. But there are people, especially in Northwest Arkansas, that have cash that they're paying for houses, and especially in Bella Vista. A lot of these people have moved in from somewhere else, and especially during COVID, a lot of them are moving from California, those areas that they're having a lot of problems with COVID and quarantining and those kind of things. So they're selling their homes, which a house up there is twice as expensive as is here. So they could buy the same home for half the money, or they could buy twice the home and they still got the money there. Have you spoken to a lender? Have you been pre-approved? And here you go, Brittany. When did that happen? This is in your buyer's information sheet to remind you to ask that question that Brittany suggested that just happened to her recently. Are you currently working with a realtor? This is really important because we have this ethics that a lot of you are just going to be going through, and ethics has a thing called procuring cause. So there are lots of things that they look at in procuring cause if you have a situation. So let's say that I showed a buyer a home and I did have a buyer's agency with them. I could have or may not have, either way, but I did show them this home, and then buyer's agent over here shows the same buyer the same home. They write an offer, and I had just shown them that home, and in some cases you write an offer and they just are irritated with you and do something else. You know, you're going to go to what they call arbitration. They have peers that are real estate agents. They're going to listen to that. You can file an arbitration for procuring cause. So what you want to do is you want to ask the buyers up front, have you been working with a real estate agent, and what homes have they shown? And for safety, you want to steer away from those homes because they've just been shown, or you want to get in touch with the realtor that showed them and make peace, offer to pay them a referral. What happened with it? One of the things that
I have a question.
Okay.
So I actually asked this question. Oh, sorry. Did I interrupt someone? I'm driving, so my signal's a little spotty. But I asked my client if he had been working with any other agents, and he told me no. And then I went calling other agents to just discuss some things that I was unaware of because I'm new, and come to find out they had actually been working with them in the past already, but the client was not, because he wasn't contracted in, I guess he considered that not working with them. Where does that fall? Because I feel like it's a really gray area.
It is a gray area. And one of the questions, and the reason I'm so knowledgeable, and I hate to say this, is that I filed an arbitration on this years ago and we won. But it's like going to court and you have to prove it, and you really don't want to do it. I mean, if at all possible. And so to answer your question with that, what happened in my case was I had an agent that worked in my company, and they actually wrote a contract, and it was with another company that has property management, and these people were in rental with them, and this other company came back and told them that they could get out of their rental if they let them write the offer. And so they did let them write the offer. The other agent that wrote the offer called and said, this is what's going on. I'd like to write the offer. Would you allow me to do that? And I said, you know, I can't stop you from doing that, but I have to represent my agent. It's not fair that I just go, because it wasn't my money, it was their money. It's not fair that I take the high road and say, go ahead and let's just get this sold and I make my money because I'm the company. And so one of the things they look at, Brittany, is did that person abandon them? You know, were they keeping up with them, asking them, had they called them, had they sent them other properties, those kind of things. And so, you know, I'd ask how long ago they showed them. And then I would probably call the other agent back most of the time, as long as you communicate up front. I'm showing these people property. I know that they had been working with you before. You've got this listing. I have a buyer's agency with them. And a lot of times buyers don't understand. I just want to make sure that you understand up front, you're okay with me showing this property to them. And if they're not,
yeah, and that's kind of what I did. And I actually was like, you know, if this is someone that you are, you know, working with and you've done a lot of work for, like, I don't want to step on any toes. And he was actually just like, yeah, go ahead with it. You know,
yes.
But I did get verbal permission to continue on the path with it. But the clients don't understand, like you said.
They do not. And you did the right thing. Integrity, again, is going to make you a better relationship with that person, that when you sent the offer over and he recognized the name, he might have had a whole different mindset than he does when you called him and you made it okay with him. So good job. But procuring cause, it's not just who has the contract, the buyer's agency with them, because our agent then did not get a buyer's agency. And I was very concerned that we even had a chance, because that's law that we do that. But again, you're not dealing with law with procuring cause, you're dealing with ethics with our association. And this was to the tune of a $7,500 commission that the other company had to turn around and write back to us. So a lot of brokers won't do this. They don't want to file procuring cause. They don't want to be involved. And I've got mixed feelings about that. But I do believe that we need, as real estate agents, we need to understand what could happen, because it could be on the opposite side. You know, you could have shown it and you may show it, or they could have shown it to one of your people like this guy did that you called. How are you going to respond to that? So again, this is where I said the stronger agent wins. So you at least want to know what your options are so that you can visit intelligently with the people on the other side. So, and you did right by asking if they'd signed an agreement. You know, are you working with somebody else? If they haven't signed an agreement, you're pretty much okay, because I mean, you could have procuring cause and still not win, even with an agreement. You just need to understand, they, like I said, they look at a whole list of laundry list of things of what procuring cause is and how you did that. And these are your peers. So you can imagine me sitting there and you listening to me. And if you said, I called and asked them if it was okay, and they said, yes, it was okay, I'm going to go, well, too bad to the other guy. I mean, you know, why would you all of a sudden say it's not okay at this point? I'm a real estate agent listening to two real estate agents argue things that I could have been involved in at some point too. But there is an attorney there. It's like going to court. So buying a home, do you know the lingo? And I don't know that we're going to have enough time to get through this. Um, so here's some of the most common terms that are used in home buying. And I think these are important that you go over with, and I'm not going to read down through all of these. If somebody, you've got this inside box, so you can go pull this up. But these are terms I really do believe that you need to talk to each buyer about so they understand what could happen with it. So what happens with an appraisal? It's necessary to validate the home's worth. And some of them are coming in low now. A lot of them that we have had dealings with, things that we didn't think would appraise, are coming in right at contract price because the market is saying that it's worth it today. There's not anything else out there, and this buyer wants this property, so it's worth it. So that property now sets a new number for the rest of the market that's going to have to get appraised. Closing cost, be sure and tell them they need to go back and talk to their lender about that, but these are required to complete the real estate transaction. They include points if they want to buy down their rate. They include taxes for prepaid, title insurance, financing cost, and other items that might be escrowed. Then their credit score, be sure and talk to them about their credit score. You know, sometimes when you're just generally talking about things like this, somebody go, well, I filed bankruptcy last week. Oh, well, they're not going to buy a house this week at that point. They don't understand this. So when you start talking about their credit score and how much debt they have and those kind of things, then they'll disclose and tell you a lot of things that's happened in their life. Down payments, these are typically 3 to 20% if you're going to do an FHA or you're going to do a conventional. If you're going to do an RD, like we talked about earlier, you can get in with no money, first-time home buyer. It's called an Addie loan. Get with your lender. Your lender is going to talk with the buyers, and they're going to let them walk them through some questions and talk to them about the different programs, and they figure out what would be best for them. Mortgage rate, the interest rates are really low right now. Pre-approval letter, we've talked about that, you know what to say. And then a real estate professional. Here is where you talk about your value. We're there to help them through confusing paperwork. We find their home for them. We negotiate the details that come up all through the closing. And we know exactly what's happening in that housing market, and they don't know that. So this just gives you an idea of what's happening, the buyer's purchasing power, and it shows you different interest rates. So this is saying that the 274 at the close of 219 was the average sales price. Is what this is. Keeping Current Matter, somebody that I subscribe to, put out, and so it's just a good example. These people wanted to keep a $1,200 a month payment. So if they were wanting to do even at 2.75, they couldn't get a 300,000. They could get a 292.5, 1194 at the 2.75. To stay at that 1,200 at 3, they get 285 now. The interest rate's gone up to 325. To stay there, they can only buy 277.5. And then if the interest rates go up to 3.5, now they can only buy 270. Look at the difference in what the money will buy just because of the interest rates. And these are low. All of these are low interest rates. But if they can only afford a 1,200, then you can look in there and see. This gives them an idea of how important it is to buy now because the rates are so low that are out there. So you can use this or any other form that you've got, but you definitely need to talk to them about what they can buy, their buying power versed on interest rate and what their loan amount is. So if they're ready to make an offer, you go with them, determine the price, submit the offer, negotiate it, and then you need to tell them that they need to act quickly. We have so many people today that say, I'm going to think about this overnight. If you think about it overnight, then that house has probably had multiple offers and gone. I can think about this with shopping. I wanted to buy a couple of chairs and stuff for my office for the house that we're buying, and I went to Marshall's and they had them. And I know if I left Marshall's and came back, those chairs would probably be gone, because that's what happens at Marshall's. If you want something in there, you better buy it now. Don't wait, because it'll be gone, especially if you want 2 of something. So act fast in what you're doing. Then be sure that you have, if they're looking in Bella Vista, if they're looking in Benton County, like we were talking about with TG, if they're looking in Centerton, if they're looking in Bentonville, pull that from the grids that we have prepared for you and put this in that presentation so that it shows them the active listings that are in there. It shows them the month supply, and we know that anything 6 months or less is a seller's market. That shows them the average days on the market. So you want to be sure and do that. And then what to expect from the home inspection. This talks about a little bit more detailed about the home inspector, qualifications. We've gone over this pretty much, what's included in the report. And then we want to know that the home inspector is a member of the state association and that he has got credentials to do. A lot of them are MOLE certified. They don't charge any more than the other ones. So you might want to ask some of those questions. And do they have errors and omissions insurance? You know, if they make a mistake, do they have insurance coverage that's going to guarantee you that what you have done is correct? Bottom line, you want a good inspector with a good reputation. And you can probably ask other real estate agents in our market who they use, and you might try one or two. What you don't want in an inspector is someone that inspects the home and scares your buyer to death with the things that they have found. 5 reasons to hire a real estate professional. And I've got the Hagen Group. You put your name there and TG. And 5 reasons is one-time contracts. We help with all disclosures and contracts. Most of the time people do, unless they're attorneys, they don't even know the first thing about filling out a contract. Pricing, we understand what pricing is doing, especially in this market because it's all over the place. We understand negotiations. One of the things that I tell everybody on the very front end is what my value to you, the most important thing is negotiating. I am one of the best negotiators. And I will tell you, because of personal experience, even great negotiators, it's very difficult to negotiate on your own for yourself. And then experience. We're well educated in real estate and we're experienced in the entire sales process. And then understanding the current market conditions. Then you're going to review, while they're sitting there with them, the buyer's agency contract. Go through that paragraph by paragraph so they know exactly what to expect from you and what they're signing on buyer's agency. Then you're also going to review the real estate contract. Why would you do that? Because if you're using Form Simplicity, you're probably going to send it to them. And this meeting, you're going over it with them, so it won't be the first time that they've seen it. And it's going to be much easier to explain that contract after you've explained the paragraphs and what they're going to expect to see in there. So review that with them in this meeting. And then contract to close, what to expect after we write the contract. So these are the things for a buyer. They're going to sign the exclusive buyer's agency, get the pre-approval. They're going to review the listings and set up notifications. So what you're going to do, you're going to schedule showings as requested, view the homes, review the market price. This is your contract to close. When you do that, find your dream home, pull the tax records, do comparative market analysis, ask the lenders for buyers, estimated closing costs, determine the offer and the tentative closing date, receive the deposit, deliver it to your lender, schedule the home inspection, review the home inspection, request extension if necessary, schedule septic, and then verify utilities, verify clear title. Clear title means that, and this is your responsibility, so you want to know, are there any encroachments? You look at that, and this is extremely important. You know, we had a house one time that was out in the country or out in the county. Felt like it was in the county, but it was Centerton city limits is what it was, but it was out a little bit. So it had both of those potentially there. And we had the house that was sitting in an easement that they had put in that was 2 foot in there. Well, they said it was grandfathered in, it was not a problem, but you need to make sure it's not a problem with the buyers when you're buying, when something like that happens, because when they get ready to sell the house, that encroachment is still going to be there and they're going to have to explain it. I would suggest in those cases that you get something from the city that says this is not a problem, it's been grandfathered in, so they have that as part of their records. Verify closing time, schedule a final walkthrough, go through the CD, and inform your buyers and attend the closing. That's the review on that. Affiliates, really important. Make acquaintances with title. Find a lender, get a home inspector, find someone that can do repair work for you. Give them enough that when you need something repaired, you're not 3 months out, because that's not going to work on a 30-day closing. So that's a really important part of the affiliates that you're doing, especially today. Surveyor, just someone you can talk to. You may need them more than just on the deals that you're doing right now. You may have questions that come up. And appraisal, we don't get to pick the appraisal, but how important is it to have a relationship with them? Because if they know you and they pull your name, it makes them work a little bit harder, because we do work harder for people that we know, like, and trust. Or if you get a non-conforming property, something that's not in a subdivision, something that's out. One of the things that I've told you guys, that I had one that I went on that had a 9-hole golf course in the front of it. Never had that before. I called the appraiser that I have that relationship with and said, you know, what value would you give to a 9-hole golf course that's beautiful and excellent condition? And I was extremely surprised to find out that he said no value, none. Now, you think those people in that $2.7 million home are going to appreciate me coming in and say, I don't think this is going to have any value? Do you think they're going to like it much better if I go back in and say, I've talked to an appraiser who is going to have to appraise this home and ask what value they would give to this 9-hole golf course? And they said none, because some people, it's a detriment. They don't want the upkeep. They don't play golf. They don't want that. There's no value there as far as the appraiser is looking at on the resale of this property. So much better for me to say, this is what an appraiser said, than this is my opinion with that. And then termite. And if you've got a termite someone that you know that is least expensive to go out and give, they still have a great reputation to give estimates, that's someone that you may want to put on there. Ways to target buyers. We already know social media, making calls to a targeted audience. If you've got an open house or you've just listed, you can call those people. By referrals from someone else, direct mail. If you're farming an area or you want to consistently work an area, then you're going to send them mails, you're going to phone call, you're going to walk the neighborhood, you're going to send, little pumpkins and more people are going back to this and building those relationships with people in neighborhoods, not just for sellers, because those people that have those homes, I can tell you at least 2 people recently have said that I picked up a listing and they're also going to buy. So, and then campaigns, we can do that in Command when we have that set up. And then how to simplify the process. Consult early with a responsible lender. We've talked this through a whole lot. Be sure that you let your buyers know that they need right now, before they find that house, that they need to go in and talk to a lender. Do's and don'ts. They need to sign up for something that's credit monitoring. Like, we've got something on one of our visas, we can go in anytime and it tells us what their credit is. It's not exactly accurate to what came back on our credit, but it's very, very close. Do pay their bills on time. Don't apply for any new credit. Very important. Don't go out and get a new credit card. New inquiries can negatively impact their scores. Don't max out your credit cards. This is a really good thing to give them, whether you go through this process or not. Don't close your credit accounts after you've made the purchase of this house. And finally, stay in touch with your loan and your real estate professionals. Figure out what's happening and why it's happening. You've heard Carrie talk about all the different things that's happening with her loan process. The agent's job to find out if that appraisal's been ordered, what's going on, and those kind of things that are in there. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. The lender won't just pick up the phone and call, hey, I've got an update for you. That agent is going to do that for you. One of the things that I like to see happen with the buyer, when you get a buyer, this is something that you can offer them. And I'd love to see more of these things. However, it would be social distancing and you'd have to get all the right things to make this work. But a welcome to the neighborhood, a housewarming party, or just their friends to come over, social distance to see their home, maybe to have dessert or something. So these are nice things. You can partner with a lender. I will tell you that Ron does these. He pays for the food. He does those kind of things. These don't have to cost you anything. And it's just another memory that your buyers have. And we got 4 or 5 referrals of their friends that came through because he also furnished a drawing. We did a movie, which you can't. I think the movies are opening now. I saw where Bentonville, the cinema over there, has opened with limited seating with those kind of things, but they're beginning to open back up. So there are things that are starting, and this is a fun thing to do. You always get referrals from something like this, and you don't ask for referrals. You don't have to. The people that bought the home from you are going to sell you the whole time that you're there. Okay. Tell them thank you for trusting me with your real estate investment, and you're going to move on. So, all right. I'm going to open this up, and we finished 3 minutes early. Woohoo! Let me stop sharing. Anybody have any questions?
I have one, but
Okay.
so if you give a gift and it's over the $25 limit and you want to use advertising, what is the best way or legal way for tax purposes to make that
To
happen?
give a gift. One of the companies that I know of is that Cutco. They give
Correct.
knives and stuff like that, and those cost more, and that's a tax deduction. And so, we've given those
But what's required to make it tax?
deductible. It
Uh-huh.
needs to have some kind of advertising on it. It's advertising.
Yeah.
It's not
so-
just a gift. It's advertising who you are. So
Correct.
they
So
will
can it
engrave your
be-
name and phone number and the stuff like that on there for you.
Like I have an engraver, like one of my clients, I was going to get him a margarita machine
Uh-huh.
and I was going to get something engraved with my name, whatever, on the side of it somehow. Or
Just put
Can we-
welcome to your new home and then just put Jeremy Baker, your phone number, and,
Okay.
you know, thanks for buying from me or something like that.
can it be a sticker?
Yeah, I don't think a sticker would be good, probably. Hang on just a second. I was looking to see where mine was. Got one, I've got several of these, but. Okay, here is one. I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm coming back. Okay, this is Cutco. And I don't know if you can see that. Can you see
Yeah.
the engraving on there?
Mhm.
That's how they do that. And this is a cut, and I use this all the time. And so something like this, and I think this was like $119 or something, and you can get them cheaper if you buy more. They're always having sales, and Cutco is somebody that, I don't know if they were in the vendor thing when you guys were in Mega Camp or not. I didn't go to the vendor stuff, but, you know, chopping it, if I were not an agent, and this is when I was working, when I was training director at Coldwell Banker. So this has got Coldwell Banker, but it's got my name, and it's got my phone number. And that's all it's got. So if they don't know, if they can't remember my number, they use this all the time. I mean, this stays in
All it
my,
has to have is your name and phone number.
well, regulation 10.5 has changed that. And this was before that. And so any form of advertising now has to have something that they can get in touch with your broker. I don't know about this. I'm going to plead the fifth on that. I'm going to go, we probably need to ask that question, maybe even to the commission or something. And Bryant that sells this Cutco probably has some information on that. Regulation 10.5 is brand new, and they're going to start enforcing it. And any form of advertising has got to have a way back. It's got to have the phone number or the address, some way that they can get back with a principal broker.
Okay.
You know, so you could put the office number of Keller Williams down there. They're probably not going to call that and put your office number too. But it's got to be the same size, those kind of things. And I'm sure that when y'all got out of school, they talked about regulation 10.5, correct? They did. I'm not seeing you. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of you are going yes and some of you are going no. I wasn't sure because I don't think legislation has completely passed on a lot of that. So, but it is part. Were there any questions on the test about regulation 10.5?
No.
No,
I didn't think so.
no. And I'll be honest with you, the way I found out about the regulation 10.5, you were talking about the same size. I actually found that out from Eric Duca. So I didn't find it out from the school. But what I was going to suggest was, if you have, like, I showed you the other day, Marcel, the metal business cards.
Mhm.
And one of the things I thought of for Jeremy was that maybe he could super glue that onto the back of that margarita machine.
That's what I was.
Have you got one with you? Show them your metal business card, y'all. This is hysterical. He made me laugh. Yeah.
Let me get it out here. I love to show everybody. So,
Well, so if I just made something similar to my business card and had it engraved on the back of it, it'd be fine.
Yeah.
Just take a
I would
picture of
think
it
so.
for tax reasons.
I would think so. You might want to check with, I'm an executive broker at this company. You might want to check with the PB, or you can't see it because of your background. That's funny that metal won't show through the background. Can y'all tell what he's got there?
Yeah.
It's got sold, it's metal, and then on the other side, he's got a bunch of little. Read to him what's on the other side.
that, and then that's on the back. And the back actually says, I never received my acceptance letter to Hogwarts, so I'm leaving the Shire to become a Jedi and take the Iron Throne.
Y'all can see why I said he made me laugh when he sent those. I almost put, is that real? So if we laughed at that, do you think somebody else would laugh? Do you think they're going to remember when they see that card. First of all, it's metal. It's not like anybody else's. And it's got all that funny stuff on it. So any more questions? Okay, guys, I hope this has helped, and I hope that you will be this afternoon. We have got Caton that's going to do his listing presentation, and he sent me a nice little emoji that went about practicing, so he's probably going to be fun to watch today. I know he does something different. He said most of the people that he does listing presentations with already know him, and they don't want to sit through long presentations. So I'm going to see what he does. I'm probably going to I'm going to tell y'all up front as new people, use your listing presentation. This is why I have people do this, because it's important. Even though they say they don't want you to do that, I would say at least let me go through the marketing, because when somebody wants to get out of a listing with you and you've been doing the things, let's say you're not communicating as much, someone else, they call them and they can do this, and they talk to them and they say, I would do this, this, and this. Even if you're doing it and it's not working, they don't know you do it if you don't go through that presentation with them. So that's what I would use that for. Get something that you're comfortable with and use it. It will make you feel better, especially when Marcella calls you to do your listing presentation in front of everybody. So I bet his is good though. He's very professional with everything that he does. So anyway, this afternoon, he's going to be doing that. He says his is very short, so he scares me a little. So I have prepared a thing called, and this was something that Rod loves, something we do in training all the time. Is one of his favorite things I've done for years, called You Be the Judge. And I've taken several contract phrases in there and put it up and ask your opinion. What would happen if this? It's a good way to study contracts. So if we get through and we have some time, then we'll do that. And I think it will be fun. Plus, I have a very important announcement that I'm going to make in coaching this afternoon. And I'm hoping that you guys will be there. I think it's something that you're going to want to know before it's announced publicly. So I will see you guys at coaching. Okay. Thanks for showing up.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, Marcella.